some of the key factors that are required to transition from a cost game to a value game. Companies in the cost game have a fragmented customer base and a fragmented offer. They typically also have low differentiation. And so they have a limited ability to really influence customer behavior. Really, in order to go from the cost to the value game, you really need to come up with a new offer, whether it's a differentiated value proposition, a new go-to-market strategy, or a new technology to really change the paradigm from just being a cost plus player to a value-oriented player. So there's a number of different ways that a company can actually quantify the value that they deliver. They can use a number of different qualitative research metrics, whether it's market research, interviews, things of that nature. There's a number of analytical ways as well. For instance, in a company that's providing something that actually provides underlying economic benefits, for instance, improving operational efficiency, driving more revenue, you can actually start sizing and analyzing that value and actually using that as a starting point to reprice your offering to share in that value. So there's a number of challenges when you go from the cost game to a value-based pricing offer. So one is actually understanding and defining that value. Oftentimes when a company starts at the cost game, they never really have the techniques to actually think through what is the value that should be defined and communicated. The second big issue is sales teams are typically not used to communicating on value-based messaging. And so actually going through that process with a sales team and organization to start communicating based on value versus cost or comparative cost is a big organizational change, particularly for the sales org. And the last is actually developing the muscle to monitor, adapt, refine that messaging as the perception of the value evolves. There's a couple different ways that a company can sustain a value-based pricing over time. So one is actually investing in the organization to continue to think and develop and refine their offer, continually innovating it. Two is actually changing the incentives in the organization to really reward reps to drive a value-based conversation and actually deliver higher margins by being more value-oriented. Fostering really a culture that really thinks about customer value and being much more customer-oriented versus being internally and cost-focused. One example of a company that went through this transition is an industrial manufacturer of equipment. They typically sold their equipment on a cost-plus basis, trying to hit to a target margin. During that time, they actually innovated to create a digital offering that allowed them to understand when their machines would be down or when a part would break. That had all sorts of benefits. They could actually preemptively repair some of the machines. They could help replace some parts during scheduled downtimes. And then they were also able to make sure that throughput was maximized. So there's significant value in the offering. And rather than just pricing the digital offering on a cost-plus basis, they actually created a service package that allowed them to share in some of the value that was generated. And this allowed them to both significantly increase their profitability and their margin, but also have stickier customer relationships because now they were the preferred partner for the parts replacements.